Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper. Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
We'll get back to some more football talk here with Week 8 officially getting kicked off last night. Chargers taking down the Vikings and such, which I'm sorry, Austin. By the way, if you can hear me, dude, you're on mute, right? No, you did. Okay, there you go.
I didn't want any background noise, but I don't even know what game you're talking about.
All right, good. Yeah,
I don't recall.
We don't need to go down that road, right? So that's our man, Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us this morning. How you doing, sir? Getting ready for playoff football?
Yeah, well, that's let's focus on that game, not last night's game.
Yeah.
So we got a playoff football starting here. So Regis, we're taking on Unity tonight. So playing a home game tonight at Carson Park, 7:00. They got a big, strong quarterback. I think that's going to be probably our biggest challenge. But playoff football is playoff football, right? You got to show up every week and play well if you want to advance. So we're looking forward to the challenge.
Awesome. Well, best of luck, man. And I know that's a good bracket you guys are going to be in too if you advance. So it's going to be a tough one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
No
doubt.
Let's talk about, first of all, your Vikings too, because a lot of talk has been about J.J. McCarthy and with the ankle injury and such. And I know he was suited up. I mean, he looked like he was, jumped up to try to avoid, was it Justin Jefferson rolling into his ankle yesterday or last night and such. Now it kind of seems like he's in line to start against the Lions here. Do you think it was more, I know there's a lot of conspiracy stuff going out there with the ankle such and that. I mean, do you think it was they just wanted to make sure he was 100%? Do you think they wanted to play Carson Wentz? What's your thoughts on that, being a doctor, but also a fan of the team too?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think high ankle sprains are tricky because they're often much more serious than people kind of first believe. So, a lot of people are used to standard ankle sprains, seeing the recovery process, and within 2 to 4 weeks, most guys are doing pretty well with the standard lateral sprain. High ankle sprains definitely take a lot longer, and in the again, even though he's able to jump out of the way, that's one instant movement. You don't know if he's really able to have lateral side to side movement. I think with a young quarterback like that, I think the last thing I want to do is put him out there when he's not 100% and set him up for failure. So I do believe that. High ankle sprains are often. When I see a football player, I say, look, expect, you're going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. I think that's pretty standard for a really significant high ankle sprain, which is what he had. So I don't think it's anything outside the normal time frame. So again, to me, it's not like he can't walk. It's just you say, hey, go play on a field with the most athletic people in the world. Maybe you just can't cut that, right? So I'm not reading into it too much. I don't think that the Vikings are looking to, test out Carson Wentz more to see. I think we know what we have with him, which is a journeyman quarterback who makes a lot of bad throws. So I think we've run that experiment now. He every once in a while have a throw or make a play where you say, wow, that was that flash that brought people in. But then he has the throw, 1 or 2 plays later where you just scratch your head and say, what was that? So I think most fans were ready to come back to JJ and see what we have. And, we've talked about this. We live in a day and age where people want to have, instant Hall of Famers, right? Guy comes on and plays at a high level right away. But it's just, there's a lot of hard things in sports. I think what people say the hardest thing in sports is to hit a fastball. I'd have to say that playing quarterback in the NFL has got to be right up there with that. It's physical, it's mental, it's experience. And for guys that go from a collegiate level to step in and succeed at the NFL level, it's just not easy to do. So you got to give them time to grow. And so I think we'll see what happens over the next season or two. But to answer your question in a very long-winded way, I think it was a legit injury, and I think that he's hopefully going to be coming back at a high level.
Mike Evans, the guy who has been like Mr. Consistent, maybe one of the most underrated wide receivers when you kind of think about it. 1,000 yards every year. He's not going to get that this year because he broke his collarbone earlier, was it Monday Night Football against the Lions? I think,
it was Monday Night Football,
against the Lions. So collarbone, Packers fans are probably familiar with that with Aaron Rodgers a couple times here. But given the position that he also plays too, wide receiver, does that factor in recovery time coming back from a broken collarbone?
Yeah, I think, if you look at a quarterback that's probably going to take less contact, you might try to get him in a little bit sooner. But really most positions in the football field are going to be, contact collision type positions. So you need that clavicle or collarbone to be ready for a full hit, right?
Hmm.
So, I don't know if he did he have surgery. I don't know if I saw that in the
I
news or
don't know
not.
if
I saw
yeah,
how he broke it. Yeah, I don't know if they commented on that or not. So it depends on the fracture pattern. Sometimes when we get plates and screws in there, when we get the bone lined up perfectly, it heals a little bit faster. We can often get people rehabbing more quickly, so a lot of times high-end athletes will elect to have them fixed even if it's borderline. Now, if it's markedly displaced, then we're going to fix them almost no matter what. But that'll kind of play into it. So he's going to miss, I'd say, likely between 6 and 8 weeks, in all likelihood, depending on the fracture pattern. And that's going to clearly put a dent in his production. And yeah, you're right. I mean, he really somehow flies under the radar as a guy who's been. I mean, and they haven't exactly had. Uh, a really solid quarterback for a long period of time. He's had different quarterbacks come
yeah.
through, and yet he always produces, right? So he definitely has been a guy that has been Mr. Consistent.
Yeah, it says here he is scheduled to undergo surgery. This it says this week, so I don't know if he's already had it or
Okay.
not. But yeah, he's
I bet by now he probably has. Yeah, those usually the swelling doesn't get too terrible, and if it is, it's not a huge deal. There's some things like broken ankles, for example. Sometimes we have to wait, a week to look at the swelling down. Elbow fractures, but a lot of times clavicles you can get to them right away. So I bet he's already had the surgery.
staying with football, but going back to a quarterback, Jayden Daniels, who's not going to be playing against the Chiefs this week. They're calling it a grade 1 low grade hamstring, but he's also missed time earlier this week because of a hamstring issue. Uh,
Mm.
they're saying it's a real possibility he just misses one game. But I mean, this is a mobile quarterback with a hamstring who's already missed time. Is this something that could linger for him throughout the rest of the season?
Yeah, that's something to keep your eyes on for sure. I mean, those type of soft tissue injuries can certainly be recurrent. They can be things that people will have that they seem like they're over and they just kind of re-aggravate. I mean, in same concept is, I mean, you want to make sure that guy's 100% getting back out there. Otherwise, you run the risk of re-injury, and sometimes you re-injure it worse. So it's not uncommon for a guy to go back and try to play, and then actually, especially with these mild ones, turn a mild injury into more severe ones. So I don't think, especially with the quote franchise quarterback like that, they're going to try push him too terribly hard. But they're also struggling this year, and they obviously saw themselves as a playoff contender, and they're on the outside looking in right now. So they're probably chomping at the bit as well. So they'll find that fine line to walk. But with these hamstrings or groins or calves, all these type of soft tissue injuries, you need to give him the proper time. I mean, it just as a fan, you're like, why doesn't he just get back out there? But the problem is you tweak it, and it can be again that tweak, quote unquote, can certainly be worse sometimes than the original injury. So you want to make sure they're ready to go, and it's a long season. So these injuries they pop up on every NFL team, and you just got to get the guy healthy, get him in a good spot where he can go out and play.
Mm-hmm. Stephon Diggs, wide receiver for the Patriots. Yeah, I was looking because it says on the injury report he's got a chest injury. When you see
Mhm.
chest injury, he was a limited participant though. What could be some possible issues with a chest injury, but he's still a limited participant in practice?
Yeah, I mean, pec muscle injury is certainly one. So you can strain a pec. I mean, we see that more commonly in like linemen because they're doing a little bit more of that type of motion. Um, You can have injuries to the ribs where they kind of meet like the sternum. So like costochondral injuries, we call those. I guess an oblique injury. Usually they'll call those oblique or ab though. But those
Hmm.
kind of fall in that category. So I'd say probably one of those would be probably the one. And they'll often call a rib injury a rib injury. So again, you kind of eliminate the just the standard like cracked rib or something like that. So probably more of a chest wall or a pec muscle injury would be my suspicion.
With the pec injuries, because that was like going back to J.J. Watt, right? He had a couple of those,
Mhm.
I think. What causes an injury like that, or because I feel like we hear that more. Is it more specifically for like the offensive lineman, defensive lineman type of players that
Yeah,
suffer
yeah,
those?
they definitely have a much more common. I mean, it happens generally with think of it like a bench press type motion. So driving your arms and pushing someone away from you. I mean, in the community as orthopedic surgeons, we take care of a number of pec injuries. They're almost universally done with while people are bench pressing. So they're working out, it's that motion. And usually it's going to be one of two things where you can actually injure the muscle belly, but often when it comes to see us, they've actually avulsed the tendon, and that's what JJ had. So he had to have surgery to repair it. And so We do see that. So that's much more commonly seen in guys in the interior line that are trying to literally push each other off. And it's basically a bench press type motion. So they're pushing,
Mhm.
big bodies, against each other.
Yeah, because I think was it Darren Waller, the tight end from Miami, just suffered a pec injury, and they said he's going to be out several weeks at this point. So, which would make sense. I mean, tight end probably, maybe a run blocking
Hmm.
stance and pushing
Yep.
pushing out like that. So,
Yep. Absolutely.
uh, Packers really quick, just a couple of them here or so. I mean, we got a couple kickers now, so I mean they could probably wait for Brandon McManus here, but kind of a weird
Hmm.
thing. The quad injury thing, they've been patient with him, and he said last week or so that this was something he's dealt with before and he's kicked through. But from a kicker with a quad issue in that, would it just maybe be like a strain possibly with a quad injury when it comes to a kicker?
It could be that or tendonitis, one of the two. So, tendonitis is more of inflammation in the tendon, the actual insertion of the tendon into the bone. So we do see that not uncommonly. So, in the knee, so the quad comes down to the patella or the kneecap and it inserts onto the top edge. That area can get inflamed. And certainly we'd see it with repetitive activities. And clearly kickers do repetitive activities. I mean, if you've ever been on a football team, the kicker is kind of in the corner just hammering kicks all day long. So
Yeah.
it's certainly a possibility, or it could be more of in the muscle injury. I would tell you, based on the fact that they're trying to play through it, I think it's more likely to be a quad tendon injury issue. So not an actual injury, but like a tendonitis, because they're a lot safer to play through. Again, once you have an actual muscle injury or musculotendinous injury, those are things that you can aggravate and worsen. What we were just kind of talking about with hamstrings. Um, Same thing with the quad. But if it's a tendonitis, that's more of a, all right, it's kind of aggravated. You can play through it. And if he's played through it in the past, I think that's more consistent with the tendonitis based problem.
And then Christian Watson sounds like he's going to make his season debut after tearing an ACL. I think it was the second to last game last year for,
Hmm.
for Green Bay. Now, we've talked a lot about ACLs over the year and different players, how
Hmm.
the recovery. I mean, you got Brandon Ayuk, who's still trying to come back from an ACL injury that he suffered earlier in the season last year. Um, when it comes to a guy like Christian Watson, he's a bigger receiver, but he's speed. Is there going to be any issues with him regaining that speed? Is it something that he's going to have to work to, or is that something for guys when they come back from an ACL injury, they usually get that speed back right away?
I wouldn't say right away. So I mean, all that recovery, so the explosiveness, the strength. I mean, those are things that do take time. I mean, in reality, it's frankly years to get all the way back. But those guys are pushing their bodies to the absolute limit, and they can get a lot out of the body, in ways that kind of quote unquote normal human beings can't. But I think if you look at the injury, I mean, the challenge is we're on the outside looking in. So if we hear an ACL injury, that can be just as true isolated ACL, where that's the only injury to the knee. You can also have meniscal injuries, and then you can have, of course, the dreaded cartilage injuries as well. And all of those really, really affect the timeline for recovery. So, for example, a standalone ACL injury, we let those people start bearing weight within a couple weeks. If you have a meniscus procedure along with it, like a meniscus repair, you're often going to be on crutches for 6 weeks. If it's a significant cartilage injury, that can extend it further. And of course, if you're coming out the gates and you can't put weight on it, that really delays the recovery process. And so guys will be kind of behind the eight ball. And it's necessary to protect the leg during the recovery phase, but it slows things down. So they're a little bit behind. And then how the knee responds to that. Again, when you start dealing with cartilage-based injuries, the knees tend to stay swollen longer. And not only that, I mean, they can have some irritability that just never goes away, right? And
Hmm.
that's why you can have those be, heaven forbid, a kind of a career-ending type injury. Um, so even though we hear the term ACL, like for example, I was just reading last night on Tyreek Hill's injury, and they say he injured his knee, including the ACL. I'm like, his was way, I mean, his is way more. If I've seen some videos, he clearly has a perineal nerve injury, so he has a foot drop. At least in the video I saw, you could see him walk and his foot slapped down. So
Ooh,
he is absolutely going to be. This is for sure a potentially career-ending injury for him. I mean, you can't play with a foot drop, right? So with a
yeah.
perineal nerve injury, so that may come back though, and so if it comes back, it may come back fully, it may come back partially. So, so again, when people dub it like, oh, an ACL injury, that can be a huge spectrum in and of itself. So, but to really long-winded answer, to answer your question, will he be back? I think his speed, inline speed, will actually come back fairly good, but like his quickness, his explosiveness, maybe a little bit behind. But his biggest skill set, of course, has always been the deep routes,
Hmm.
and so I think getting that back, I think he should be hopefully back to that pretty quickly. And he rehabbed really well. I mean, if you saw him early in his rehab, moving what looked to be really fluid movements, the leg looked nice. So sounds like he's had a good recovery. And I'd love to say every knee bounces back as well as as his, but some don't. So some people just have a quote better recovery.
Yeah.
So that sounds like that's the case for him.
Yeah. He's Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Appreciate the time as always. Best of luck tonight. We'll be following along, and we'll chat with you again soon, sir.
Absolutely. You guys have a good one.
You too. There you go. Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.